Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to a very special video because the most exciting time of the year is almost upon us. It's Eurovision! Yes, my favourite time of the year is almost back, taking place in Sweden this year. And first off, I'm going to be going. To the two semi-finals that are taking place, so I'm really excited for that. Big shout out to my partner, Rebecca, who somehow managed to get tickets. I'm not quite sure how, but honestly, trip of a lifetime, something off the bucket list. Super excited. And in anticipation, I enter this phase of my life where I become absolutely insufferable talking about Eurovision, and I thought, why not translate that over to a video? Now, I know you guys have been loving my look on logo histories or logo journeys, so I thought, well, Eurovision has a lot of different logos over the years, so why not take a look at them? So there's going to be a lot to break down because, you know, Eurovision's been going since 1956. There's a lot of logos. Lugano, 1956. So the very first edition of Eurovision was held in Switzerland, and there were only 7 nations competing. The UK wasn't one of them. And, you know, Eurovision is this huge cultural event synonymous with getting everyone together, such a party, such a big positive atmosphere. So in all this creativity, what do you think the first logo is going to look like? I think it's going to look like something really special, guys. I can't wait to see it. Oh, is that it? I mean, don't get me wrong, at least it's not just like stock text. They've tried to make it somewhat interesting with all the little like curls here and there, but is this really it? Granted, Eurovision back then was this new concept. It hadn't been tried before. This was an attempt to bring the nations of Europe back together after the devastation caused in World War II, but this is the best we could start. Grand Prix Eurovision de la Chanson Européenne. 1956. I probably butchered that. I'm going to probably butcher a lot of pronunciations in this because I'm an ignorant British man, and you know, why would we learn another language? English is the only one we need, darling. That was a joke. Full disclaimer, please. That was a joke. Don't cancel me. Okay, so the first one, it's a bit lackluster, but we can forgive it a little bit. You know, it was the first time, teething problems, etc. We'll let it slip. We'll let it slip. All in all, the 1956 contest hosted in Switzerland was won by Switzerland. Yeah, there was a whole process for that. You could vote for yourself back then. It was crazy, honestly. So let's fast forward to Frankfurt, 1957. Despite Switzerland winning, the second contest was held in Frankfurt in what was then West Germany. So, logo-wise, what do we have to offer? Oh, come on, guys. I mean, this is debatably better, the fact we've got now these little stars between each of the words. I'm not quite sure whether I like that. I think maybe had they done it only a few of them, like 2 or 3, that might have looked okay, but against every word just looks a bit much. Also, the writing here, I know it's meant to look like very sophisticated, almost like handwritten, but again, for someone with poor eyesight, this isn't necessarily the most accessible font in the world. Still says the same thing, Grand Prix Eurovision de la Chanson Européenne, 1957. I'm actually going to say I prefer the 56 one, if only that I can read it better. The 1957 contest was won by the Netherlands, with Corrie Brokken and the song Net als toen, which means for the next contest, we head over to Hilversum, 1958. Hosted in the Netherlands, the 1958 contest blessed us actually with a logo you'll be pleased to hear that isn't simply just text. Instead, we have this. Now, this is quite interesting. This is very late 50s, and it's very, very unique. Still says the same thing, Grand Prix Eurovision de la Chanson Européenne, 1958. But look at the design here. I like the fact we're using different colours. They're clearly meant to represent the test bars, although it's odd because colour television wasn't really a thing anywhere in the world apart from primarily the United States, and they weren't either taking part or indeed showing Eurovision at this time. But it's nice to have a bit of colour in there. I like the fact you've got the silhouette of a TV there to represent the fact that this is being broadcast across Europe. I think that's meant to be a microphone stand there, and then this used to confuse me. Looking at this, please tell me you see the resemblance. I thought these were eyes. I thought these were eyes laid over each other, which when you think about it like that, looks a little creepy. I actually think they're meant to represent heads of men and women who are actually singing into the microphone because, you know, this is a song contest. Yeah, just from a distance, particularly these two here, don't they look like eyes? Please tell me I'm not alone. I just really think they look like eyes. And that could have its own meaning as well. That could mean, you know, the eyes of Europe are watching. But I don't think that was the real intention. I mean, the overlap here just looks a little odd if you're taking it as heads. I love the fact that the bottom half is like shaded in. I take that as someone having a beard. Again, I'm reaching here, but I like the sort of dotted design with the different colours. Definitely the best logo we've had so far, but very interesting for 1958. The contest was won by André Cloveau with Dors Mon Amour for France, which means in 1959 we head over to Cannes, 1959. That's right, our first time in France, and let's have a look at the logo. Here it is. Ugh, what a downgrade. I mean, granted, this is better than the first two, which was just text. And you can see here, is that like some sort of animal? Like is it a donkey or a horse or something? And I can't really tell what's going on with it. The vague lines, is that meant to represent like a rider or something like that? I don't know. It's just not altogether clear what this is actually meant to be, at least for me. Still says the same thing. Grand Prix Eurovision de la Chanson Européenne 1959. I do love the font here for 1959. Look at that. Nice and striking, decently spaced out. The rest of the text, yeah, it's a, very formal font, very sophisticated, telling us what this is, what we're watching. But I don't know, if it had all been in the 1959 font there, that could have been really strong. Really like that. But no, I think 58 still beats it out for me at this point. The winner was Teddy Scholten for the Netherlands, which means for the 1960 contest, we head over to London, 1960. Now, I know what you're going to say. Why on earth was it hosted in the UK? Well, basically, the Netherlands got offered it because they won and they declined. That's it. That's the tweet. And let's have a look at the logo. Oh, ew. What is that? I mean, that's very typical of like early 60s TV, the kind of typefaces they had available, but did they really not make a specific logo for this contest? This is just bland. In fact, no, it's worse than bland. It's lazy. Even with the limited, graphics techniques that were available at the time, surely we could have come up with something better than this. Not even the word Eurovision is highlighted in a significantly different way. It all just looks like, there you go. There's the... And I know this is probably like the title card, but from what I've seen, I can't find another unique logo for this contest. So if there was one, it's bloody well hidden, that's for sure. No, this is bad. This is very, very bad. The winner of the 1960 contest was Jacqueline Boyer for France, which means we head over to Cannes, 1961. Yes, that's right, we are back in Le France, and let's have a look at the logo. I mean, are we really doing this? Are we really just going back to text? Is this better than the 1961? Yes, it looks a little less lazy, but I don't know, the font's a bit nicer, but it still looks very cobbled together at the last minute. Did we just decide to stop caring in the early 60s about what the graphics look like? I don't know. It seems like a very crucial thing, or just for niche nerds like me. But we don't need to talk about that. No, this is not good. This is not one of the highlights. The 1961 contest was won by Jean-Claude Pascal for Luxembourg, which means in 1962 we head over to Luxembourg City, 1962. Yes, the first time we're in Luxembourg, and let's have a look at the logo. Okay, this is a bit better. Yes, granted, it is just text still, but this feels a bit more uniform. This feels a bit more refined, a little less lazy. I like the font that's used here. And you might think the odd sort of stacking of the different phrases here might look a bit odd rather than being all like neatly aligned, but I don't know. I think the way they've done it, they've aligned it quite well in the sense it is a bit mishmashy, but it doesn't seem too bad on the eyes, at least from my point of view. Still saying the same thing, nearly 10 years in, we're still saying Grand Prix Eurovision de la Chanson Européenne 1962. Compared to the last 2 years, this is a step up. We're still a way away from like these specific graphics and stuff. You've got to remember back in the 60s, the technology was still limited, so nice looking text was maybe the extent of what we were getting, although 1958 had that design, so what gives? The winner in 62 was Isabelle Aubray with Un Premier Amour for France, which means let's now head on over to London, 1963. Yes, we are back in London. No one seemed to want to host it back then. Oddly enough, this Eurovision was hosted in BBC Television Centre. They wanted to show off the new facilities at the time, and I believe it's the only time that Eurovision has been hosted in a studio environment as opposed to a festival hall, a concert hall, or a stadium. So quite a unique contest. So with this being quite a unique contest, did they go the distance? Oh my god! Actual effort! Look at that. That's really cool. We've now dropped the old complicated way of saying it. It just says Eurovision Song Contest Grand Prix 1963. And you can see the flags of all the participating nations who are taking part in there, which is really cool to see. Is that 16 of them? Wow. This is definitely the favorite so far. I love the fact they've managed to incorporate all of the flags into this somehow. The sort of red, black, white color scheme is an interesting one. I wonder how that went down at the time because, you know, with a lot of flags having their own colors, when you look at this, you can tell some obvious ones like, you know, there's Norway, there's the UK, there's Yugoslavia, Switzerland, etc. But then some of them you could argue look very similar and might, you know, have some of their flags dulled by this. I wonder how that went down in the printing department. But nevertheless, I love this sort of grid format here. It almost reminds me of like the scoreboard, you know, how you'd keep track of your Eurovision entries there. Really strong stuff. My only gripe is I wish the lines weren't cutting through the text here. I don't know why, that just irks me a little bit. But overall, pretty solid effort. Well done, 63. Well done. The winner was Greth and Jørgen Ingman for Denmark. So that means for the next contest, we shall head over to Copenhagen, 1964. Yes, we're in Denmark for this contest. So let's take a look at the corresponding logo. Oh my god, why does this keep happening? We seem to go from like really strong logos like in 1958 and 63 and then just follow it up with, you know, not that good stuff. I mean, this is just a throwback to the beginning, isn't it? You know, a very fancy font scribbled on there. Grand Prix Eurovision 1964. I guess it's meant to look sophisticated, but if I'm honest, it comes across to the eye as just a bit boring. You go from 1963, where you had like all the flags involved in there somehow. You actually had like a design concept to just going back to fancy text. No, stop it. Don't do that. We better move on quick. Well, the winner in 1964 was Gigliola Cinquetti for Italy. So the first time the Italians won. So for the next edition, we'll be heading on over to Naples, 1965. Yes, we're in Italy for the 1965 contest, and let's take a look at the logo this year. Okay, so this is like the fancy approach, but done at least a little bit better. We're not just in text, we've got the Eurovision circle there, you know, what you see at the start, what you used to see at the start of every edition, and it says Napoli 1965, of course, where it was hosted. Below it, we see Gran Premio Eurovision della Canzone, which I'm assuming means Grand Prix Eurovision Song Contest, something like that. Yeah, I kind of like this. It has that sophistication. The font for Napoli looks quite nice, very easy on the eye. Yeah, really like this. And, you know, this is the early trend of actually seeing a corresponding logo image to go with the text. You know, we saw smatterings of it in 58 and 63, but we're really starting to come into that now, and we'll see it over the following decades. The contest was won by France Gol for Luxembourg. So, for the next edition, let's hop on over to Luxembourg City, 1966. Back in Luxembourg, let's have a look at the logo this year. This feels very of its time, but you know what? I kind of dig it. We can see here, you know, we're back to Grand Prix Eurovision de la Chanson Européenne, 1966. But let's just dissect this. The main image is obviously meant to represent a television at the time, you know, the sort of curved screen that most televisions had back then. Very typical across Europe. The 1966 font, I like that. Look at the little dinky sticky out bits on the 9 and the 6. That's adorably cute. I know that might sound cringe, but it is. It's just really cute to look at. It almost reminds me of like similar styles used for the Olympics. Eurovision should absolutely have the same importance as the Olympics. Are you kidding me? But no, I do quite like this. This, yes, very 60s, very of its time, you know, with the sort of curved television look there. But the font's quite nice, you know, it's sophisticated without being a bit too obnoxious. I like the elongated stretches on the R's there. And again, the cute little 1966. You can't beat that, man. Can't beat that. Yeah, one of the best of the 60s so far, definitely. The winner this year was Udo Jürgens for Austria, the first time they've claimed the contest. So let's hop aboard and head over to Vienna, 1967. Yep, we're in Austria this year, and, you know, we like the last logo. How will they do this year? I don't know, man. I don't know. We've got shortened text. It's just Grand Prix de la Chanson, 1967. No mention of Eurovision this time, so you might just think this is a regular contest. Again, this feels very of its time. We're going back to the cute little... This looks like a very similar font, actually, to that 1966 in the last one. You know, cute little letters, nothing capitalized. They're just here. They're just existing. You know, we're not going to cause you any harm. We're just here. Just a little song contest. Haha. No, it's quite sweet, actually. It's not one of my favorites, and it's definitely not one of my favorites of the 60s, but it's an interesting effort. At least it's not just fancy scribbled handwritten text again. You know, I think I'd lose my rag if we had that again. But no, this is cute. I like this. It's inoffensive. It's harmless. This year's contest was won by Sandy Shaw with Puppet on a String, the first time the UK won, and quite a famous song in its own right. So for 1968, where do you think we're going to go? London, 1968. Yes, we are back in the UK for the 1968 contest. The first time the contest was ever broadcast in colour to those countries that could receive it, and the BBC was very proud to showcase that over on BBC Two. So, you know, the BBC, even at this time, was quite renowned across Europe, and even in its design, it was leading some groundbreaking designs in its programmes and its own brand identity. How would it handle Eurovision? Let's see. Yeah, strong. Simple, but strong. You can see it borrows from the 1965 edition, having the ring there, almost like what you'd see in the intro. And in fact, that year, that ring was quite a key part of the Eurovision staging. You'd see it in the background. And this is the first time we see the Eurovision logo sort of displayed in that ring as it would be on the television. And I think it's the first year where the logo just says Eurovision or Eurovision Song Contest. There's no Grand Prix, there's no Les Chansons, nothing like that. It's just Eurovision. Really, I guess, cementing that this contest is now quite established 12 years in across Europe. It's all in gold, which communicates like a sense of importance, a sense of sophistication. And indeed, you know, the BBC back then, they really tried to showcase Eurovision in its best light, having it in, you know, prestigious halls, having it laid out to the highest standard. The font I can take or leave. It's not too bad. It irks me that the E of contest and the 9 and 6 of 1968, you can see on the curves they don't exactly join up together. I totally get that that's a choice within the font, but that doesn't really sit well with my eyes, personally. I would have preferred it to be joined up, but I do like the old gold look. Again, it really communicates that, yeah, we're treating this seriously. This is some kind of big deal. The winner this year was Maciel with La La La, which beat Cliff Richard famously by just 1 point. So, for the 1969 contest, we'll shimmy on down to Madrid, 1969. Yes, over to sunny Spain, and how did they handle the logo? Yeah, okay, this is an interesting one. It's basically the 1968 logo, change the font of the word Eurovision, and slap a red circle on it. Now, this red circle, you know, this could be used as a base for numerous things, for like the broadcaster's logo to show up, or images of other participants and stuff like that, but I don't know, using this as like the main logo as well, what's going on? I mean, notably, it is the first one that just has Eurovision, no song contest, not even the year in this case. It's a baffling choice. I mean, to use this as, you know, the base during the broadcast is one thing, but to also have it as the main logo for the contest just seems quite odd. I mean, what does a red circle say about unity and, you know, showcasing diversity of our cultures? It doesn't really say much. I don't know. For me, it's quite a baffling choice. I'm not quite sure why they went with this. It was a controversial contest to begin with, but even more so with its winners. We had a 4-way tie with the UK, Spain, the Netherlands, and France, because they just didn't have a tie-break system then. It's crazy. Did a whole video on it last year that nobody watched, so go and watch it. Give it some credence. But alas, someone had to host the contest of the following year. So let's head on over to Amsterdam, 1970. Yes, we're heading on over to the Netherlands, who staged the 1970 contest. It's a brand new decade. More and more nations in Europe are moving into colour television. So, what did they come up with? No, I like this. Look at that. That's strong. That's like, you know, a patch you could have on your jacket. That's something that could fit across a wide variety of print and television mediums. That is a really strong logo. I love the swirling circles there. I think they're actually meant to be music notes if you look at it carefully, which, of course, perfect way to summarize that this is a song contest of many different songs. The red, blue, and white naturally communicate that this is taking place in the Netherlands, representing their flag. Around the edge there, you can see it says Amsterdam, the Netherlands, 1970 Eurovision Song Contest. So we're going more into that format now, less with the French pronunciations. We're going more into just saying Eurovision, city location, country location, year, which would become ultimately the standard used for the decades to follow. But yeah, this is really strong, one of the most recognizable of the 70s, and funnily enough, this whole motif of the music notes, this ain't going to be the last time you see it, I'll just say that. There was also this logo that was used quite a lot, Eurovision Song Festival 70. Just an alternate logo, still using that circle there, which is using more dulled out colours for some reason compared to the other one. The font's nice, you know, it's not, I love the slimness of it, the fact that nothing's capitalised, it's very easy on the eye, but even though that's nice, I do prefer just the straight circle logo. I think that one generally works a lot better. Now, this contest was won by Dana, representing Ireland, the first time they won. So, next year, we head to Dublin, 1971. Yes, we're in Ireland for the first time, and the BBC has lent the Irish broadcasters colour cameras because they don't have coloured TV just yet. So for the first time hosting, how did they handle the design? Now this is one that seems to split opinion. A lot of people do like this. They think it's very nice on the eye, very straightforward to read. It's very evocative of the early 70s design, but also reminds me of sort of an updated twist on like a 30s design with that, that very slim font. It feels very 1930s in that respect. I like the 3D look they're going for. The colours contrast quite nicely. I love the D in Dublin's got that little bit sticking up there. It's really cute. Yeah, this is one of those that you see people like mega fans of Eurovision going around with this on their t-shirts and stuff like that. I don't think I'd wear a t-shirt of it, but it stands out quite well. This contest was won by Severin for Monaco, which was the first time and only time that they've won the contest. So let's shimmy on over to next year where we're going to Edinburgh, 1972. Yes, we're back in the UK. Why not Monaco? Apparently they just couldn't meet the demands to host it. But yes, we're back in the UK, up in Scotland this time. Nice to have a change of pace. Nice that it's not just, it's not just London again. And here is the logo that was used in the contest. And again, this is very 70s. That sort of double layered look to each of the letters there screams 1970s, a motif that would be used constantly throughout the 70s in general for a whole variety of products. It's not that it's bad, I just think that it's very dated. The gold and white looks quite nice. It, reminded the last time the UK staged the contest, but yeah, I don't know. I just think looking back with a modern lens, it's not the best example, really, is it? It's fine. It's 1972, but it doesn't scream anything exciting. The winner this year was Vicky Leandros for Luxembourg. So, let's shimmy on over to Luxembourg City, 1973. Back in Luxembourg, let's see what logo we have. Ooh, this is nice. That is gorgeous. Again, in some ways, it is a bit dated. I think the multicolored circles coming out of the antenna there is a bit 1970s, the curved picture as well, which is meant to represent a television, which I do think looks quite nice. It is a bit dated, but let's take the positives here. Love the design angle here. Love that we've gone back to a television motif. I love the multicolored circles in general. I think that represents a lot of things. The fact this is beaming out all across Europe and was starting to be broadcast in other territories as well. I like the fact that the multicolored circles arguably represent the sheer diversity of the songs on offer at the contest. We have Concours Eurovision de la Chanson 1973 and an emblem there. I'm not quite sure what that emblem's for. Someone might be able to clarify that in the comments, but it does look nice. It adds a bit of sophistication, and it also just reminds me of the switches you'd use on the front of old TVs to turn it on and off and things like that. Really nice. One of the best logos definitely in the last few years we've looked at. But who were the winners in Luxembourg this year? Well, it was Luxembourg again with Anne-Marie David. So, for the following year, where are we going to be? Brighton, 1974. Yes, amazingly, we are back in the UK. Winning 2 years in a row, Luxembourg probably didn't want to host the contest again, which is absolutely fair enough. So we're back in the UK, and this is quite a famous contest. This is the year that ABBA famously won. This is the year Olivia Newton-John represented the UK. It's the year we got I See a Star, which is quite an experience. The Wombles, lest we forget the Wombles. All in all, this was a great contest, and one that's gone down in the history books and is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And look at this logo. Now that is a strong, defining logo. So strong and defining, in fact, you can buy this logo as an official Eurovision shirt from the official Eurovision store. They've clearly recognized the importance of the 50th anniversary. I hope they do this with other logos, by the way. Please release more. But just look at this. That is striking. That is strong. Eurovision Song Contest 1974. Bam, tells you immediately what it is, what year. I love the bird motif on top of the microphone there. Of course, the microphone representing the contest, the different participants. I'm not sure what the bird is meant to represent, but it almost doesn't matter because when you look at it, just look at that as a whole static image. That is nice. That is well designed. That has been well telegraphed. It's one of the most defining contest logos of all time. That's the only way to put it. One of my favorites as well, personally, but one of the most striking. Is it the best one ever? Well, we've still got 50 years worth of logos, so you're going to have to hold on to your horses for that. As you may have expected, ABBA from Sweden won this contest and went on to great acclaim and great success. So, with it being the first time that Sweden had ever won, we're going to head over to Stockholm, 1975. Yes, the first time in Sweden, who are now joint best winners with Ireland at 7 apiece. So for their first time handling the contest, how did they handle the logo? Ooh, okay. Very quirky, very curvy, very nice. I do like this quite a lot, actually. I love that sort of curvature design. It's not as glaring as you think it might be. You can see like the music note in the background there, and this just looks very cohesive, very much like Sweden are in the contest. You can see the blue and yellow highlights in there to obviously denote the Swedish flag. It says Eurovision Song Contest. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that, but basically Swedish radio, March 22nd, 1975. One of the few times the actual date has been included here on the logo. And of course, it's in Stockholm. Yeah, the font is actually very late 60s. It gives me the vibes of like a sort of Euro-style font. You know, think Patrick Troughton, Doctor Who titles sort of stuff. But again, that curvature, it's different, but it strangely works. Yeah, this is really nice. I don't think it champions 1974 for me personally, but I can see why a lot of people like this, and it wouldn't be the only time Sweden got to handle a logo, trust me. The winner this year was Teaching with Ding a Dong for the Netherlands. So, we're going to go to The Hague, 1976. Yep, we're back in Netherlands for another edition of the contest, and the logo on offer is this. And there's that circle again, remember that from 1970? You might think, oh no, it's in like monochrome this time, but have no fear because look at that surrounding it. Not only does this communicate like a window onto the different countries taking part, but I think it also, complements a television once again, or it's meant to look like a television, which I think is really striking, really cool design. And just, honestly, it's so colourful. I'm a big fan of anything colourful, but just look at all the flags in all their glory there. They're easily identifiable. You can pick out which one's which. You can tell who's taking part. It's just a really nice, aesthetically pleasing to the eye looking logo. And it says Eurovision Song Festival 1976, does what it says on the tin. There are a few variations of this logo, mainly just placement of where the text is or where the number is. Sometimes the number 1976 is highlighted in the colours of the Netherlands flag, but personally I kind of prefer this one where the text is below it, because then you can see that image in all its glory, again with the flag surrounding. I can't get over that, man. That just looks so nice, really visually appealing onto the eye. Great stuff, great stuff. Does it beat 1974? I think 1974 pips it to the post just, but for again, props for getting all the flags in there, something we're going to see less and less of as time goes on. And for just maintaining that circle logo, again, I think it works really well as a motif. The winner this year was the United Kingdom with Brotherhood of Man and Save Your Kisses for Me, which still to this day remains the most successful Eurovision winner's song ever in terms of raw sales, which is quite hard to believe. So for the following year, we go to London, 1977. Yes, we're back in London again, but fear not. You know, the UK has a pretty decent track record when it comes to designing logos for this contest. So for their whatever time hosting it, how did they do? Oh, really? Is that it? Don't get me wrong. This is better than what we got, in the late 50s, early 60s, where it was just text. I like the fact that the year is highlighted at the top. I think the font is really nice. It communicates really strong. It's very confident, again, sophisticated, a level of importance. The mix of black and gold, again, furthers that importance. I really like that color contrast there. I just think that looks really nice on the eye. All in all, nice look, but I just think after several years of establishing a proper logo. Look at 1973, 1974, 75, 76, proper logos with concepts and designs. And now after all that, we're just going back to text. It's a little, whilst I like its confidence, it does feel a little lackluster. And compared to the last few years, honestly, it feels a little bit lazy. So not the United Kingdom's best effort, but never mind. For the winner of this contest was France with Marie Miriam singing. So, for the following year, let's go on over to Paris, 1978. Back in Le France, so let's see how they did. Oh, that is 1978, all right. Again, like 1972, I just feel there are several aspects of this that are, let's be real, they are quite dated. I don't know, man. It's just there's something about it, like the fonts that are used feel very 78. The curvature of the E there, again, I kind of like it because it's meant to represent a telly at the time. The big E thing just feels very... E just reminds me of all those memes, man. But I don't know, the E feels a little bit cheesy. We've got Concours Eurovision de la Chanson. Yeah, I mean, not a bad logo. I wouldn't say this is bad, but it's very, very of its time. Probably one of the most of its time we've seen so far. And just very cheesy. And I love it. No, I don't love it. It's not one of the best ones, let's put it that way. The winners this time were Izar Cohen and the Alpha Beta with Abanibi for Israel. So let's go on over to Jerusalem, 1979. So we are over in Israel this year, and let's have a look at the logo. And ooh, okay, I do like that. Really love the music note motif here. We've seen that crop up in a few logos, but never before has it been interpreted in this way. I love the way the note hangs there at the bottom and how the rest of it is made up of all the different participating countries. It's a way to include everyone. Yes, there's no flags, but all the participants' names are there, which is, I think that's the first time this has happened within a contest logo in over 20 years that all participants are listed out this way. I like the font used for the Eurovision Israel 1979. Again, that's just very simple, very strong. The font could have been a little bit different for the countries just to make it easier to read, but I think when making this music note motif, I think this just looks better. And I think the circles around it, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's the logo of the Israeli broadcaster. I could be wrong there, but they do look familiar. But yeah, this is one of my favourites of the 70s. Doesn't beat 74 or 76 for that matter, but just the way the music note's been interpreted here, really nice and strong. Could have had a bit more colour to it, actually. A bit more colour would have been nice, but really solid design, strong logo. The winners of this contest were Israel, once again, with Milk and Honey performing Hallelujah, which has gone on to be a defining Eurovision track that is played by many today. Which means that the following year we end up in The Hague, 1980. Yes, it was another case of a consecutive winner declining to host again. So instead of Israel, we are in the Netherlands this year. So let's have a look at the logo. There it is. There's that circle once again. It's a bit more subtle this time. You can see it's a bit more in the background there. We've gone for an all gold motif, and that actually makes more sense than you might realize because this was the 25th edition of Eurovision, 25 years. So to have it all in gold again communicates that sense of importance, that sense of pride, and a sense of celebration in this case, I'd argue. This is a big celebration to be had. Eurovisie Song Festival, The Hague, the Netherlands, 1980. Yes, like with a lot of the ones that go all gold, I do like this. The font is nice and playful. It's not overtly serious like some of the older ones. It's nice to have that music note motif return after 10 years. It was first seen in 1970, still used now. I'm going to burst some bubbles. Sadly, we won't see this motif again, but I think as one that recurs within Eurovision history, it definitely stands out, and I think if they made a t-shirt of just that, I think people would buy it. Not the best one from the Netherlands. I think 76 pips it by quite a lot, but not a bad effort, even for the 25th anniversary. The winner was Johnny Logan with What's Another Year for Ireland. So let's go on over to Dublin, 1981. Yes, we are back in Ireland for another edition of the contest, and here is the logo. Very interesting. You might think it's just text, and it very much is, but I think they've tried to go for something a little bit different too. You can see within the O of Eurovision, that I believe is the landmass of Ireland itself, which is a nice way to show off the host nation. But then in the other O of Eurovision, you've got the best attempt of a map of Europe there, which I believe would encompass the vast majority, if not all of the nations who were taking part in the contest at the time. I do like that sense of unity. It's a way of, rather than just writing it out, because the text just says 1981 Eurovision Song Contest, I like how in the logo design, you not only show off the host nation, but you also show off the rest of Europe as a continent, because of course that is the whole idea of Eurovision. It's the continent coming together to celebrate and to perform all these songs. The blue and red changing in fonts, I can take or leave. Part of me would have preferred a bit more of like a one color thing, but considering that the images are red, I guess it makes sense to change out the colour blue for the word Eurovision. It might have been nice as well had this had some kind of background to it, but as it stands, it's inoffensive, it's not bad, I quite like it, not a bad way to really keep moving the 1980s along. The winners this time were Bucks Fizz with Making Your Mind Up, which you either love or you hate for various reasons. Which means we're going to go to Harrogate, 1982. Yes, Harrogate. Of all the places, it baffled a lot of people at the time, but they were, showing off a brand new convention centre or something that they had, so Harrogate it is. How are they going to show it off? Let's have a look. Hey, do you know, what is going on? This is just, let's forget the colours, because there were versions of this in gold. This one here is a gold background with red. This is very much like 1977 directly, the last time they hosted, except let's add, the rose there with Harrogate Centre within it. Don't get me wrong, it's great that Eurovision came to Yorkshire. Very proud of that. And the Yorkshire Rose displayed there, always going to be proud of that. The Harrogate Centre, which is somewhat seen there in the most obscure way possible. I guess they were really trying to push the fact it was in Harrogate, but in terms of like the fonts used and stuff like that and where the year is, it is pretty much 1977, and you know I didn't vibe with that, so why on earth would I vibe with this anymore? I mean, mainly as a Yorkshireman, I will like it a little bit better, but it's not compared to 1980 and 1981. This is the least inspiring of the bunch, I will say. The winner this year was Nicole with her song A Little Piece, one of my favourite Eurovision songs ever, and the very first win for Germany, who were probably happy after nearly 30 years of no victories. So let's now go to Munich, 1983. Yes, in what was West Germany at the time, we are in Munich, Germany. And here is the logo. Ooh, I'm getting some strong throwback vibes to 1974, I won't lie. Yeah, I mean, I think it's mainly the colour is almost the same shade, if not exactly the same shade. The font is not for me, I'm going to say that now. I know the style is like that the top of the S is cut off there, and like the 83's had its top cut off. I don't really understand the appeal of this design, I'm going to be honest. I mean, you know, I'll throw my hands up. I'm not a graphic designer by any stretch, but I really don't get why this is meant to work. I do like the music notes, though, you know, surrounding there, although... Oh, God. Although people of a certain generation, just look at that. That's the tweeny clock. You can't tell me that's not the tweeny clock. Obviously, in 1983, they wouldn't have known that. Tweenies was decades off. But, yeah, in hindsight for UK viewers, it's maybe a little unfortunate that they decided to go with that motif. But, yeah, this one, on the whole, it's not really doing it for me. The winner was Luxembourg, with Corey Hermes performing. So, another win for them, their 5th win. So, we'll go to Luxembourg City, 1984. Back in Luxembourg, let's have a look at this. Ooh, that's a choice. We've gone with the double lettering again, very similar to what we saw back in 1972, but except it's the 80s now. And yes, it's dated, let's be real. This look, this isn't just 80s, that's 70s. That was dated probably when it came out. I mean, the red and white, I do actually like that. The black of the main text contrasts quite well with the sort of reddish background and the white on red at the bottom. I like that as well. I like the simplicity of the font used for 29 Concours Eurovision de la Chanson. I think that, again, makes it quite easy to read. So there are likable, and you got the broadcaster in the bottom left. You know, we see that a few times where the broadcaster is part of the logo. But I don't know, this one... I think it's just too dated for me to really enjoy the positive aspects of it. There are positives to it, we've just discussed them, but I don't know. I think when you break it down, they could have maybe done better. Even for 1984, they could have done better than this. This feels like it belongs in the 70s, not in the 80s. The winner was Harry's for Sweden with Digaloo Digalay. So let's now travel to Gothenburg, 1985. We're back in Sweden, and what did they give us? Oh, now that is that is very 80s. Very 80s in the sense that, look at that big song there, that literally from a distance you just see the word song. Like, what's this on the TV? Song. We're singing songs at the song contest. I'm digressing, obviously, but the way contest is spelled out as well, that sort of handwritten signature style. Come on, that is 1980s to a T. You'd see that everywhere, on albums, on videos, on TV, like that just sort of written out style, so commonplace, which does date it a little bit, unfortunately, but overall it's quite a concise image. I like the fact that the words Eurovision and Sweden 1985 actually are sort of above and below, even though the word song is highlighted hugely here. But no, this isn't a bad attempt at all for Sweden. Fair play. Not the most exciting, maybe not the most standout of the decade, but interesting nonetheless. Your winners this time were Bobby Socks with Let It Swing, the very first victory for Norway, who, again, probably couldn't believe it either after coming last time and time again. So now with a victory under their belt, let's go to Bergen, 1986. So the first time Norway hosts the contest, and they give us this. I'm quite torn on this one. You can see where it says Eurovision and then the city and country. It's similar to what Sweden did last year with those elements. But the writing itself, the obviously very formal writing, echoes what we used to see back in the 50s and all that sort of stuff. But, and the fact that they use the G to make the 8, that's actually quite clever. They use the G to make the 8 and then the C to represent a C and the 6, because this is 1986. The fact they've made it in red, is that just to show that it is 1986? If it was all in blue, it would probably be quite dull, to be honest. So maybe a colour change was a good thing there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just a bit torn on this one. I like the cleverness behind it, but I'm not really a fan of the overly formal type text for the song contest, especially the more modern it gets. I think that just fits less and less compared to when it did in the 50s. So yeah, not an overall fan of this one, but I appreciate, what it was going for. The winners this year was Sandra Kim representing Belgium, the first time that they won the contest. So let's now go over to Brussels, 1987. Lovely Brussels, lovely Belgium, a nation close to my heart. First time hosting. How did you manage the logo? Oh, okay, that's a choice. Where do we begin with this? Oh, oh boy. There's several things you could draw to this. Obviously, look, the two spheres are meant to represent the 8, and then the green line is the 7. This is the 1987 contest, after all. This just makes me think of snooker. I don't know what it is. They look like snooker balls. The green could be many things. The triangle, the cue, the snooker table itself. And by God, does it reek of 80s design. The font, by comparison, is actually relatively straightforward and normal. 32 Concours Eurovision de la Chanson, Brussels, Belgique. Very formal. It's very simple. It's very underpronounced. I kind of wanted the text to be as wacky and crazy as the logo itself, because look at it. Just look at this. This is... I forgot about shadow as well. I don't know why there's the need for a shadow there. That just seems a bit odd. But this... yeah, snooker balls, man. That's all I can think of when looking at this, a snooker table. It's one of the balmiest designs we've had yet. Probably one of the balmiest we've had on our journey so far. It's not going to be the last. I'll tell you that for now. But yeah, I mean, fair play to Belgium. Look, if you're only going to host once, if you've only won once so far, go big or go home, and you went big. It unironically... And I'm not joking here. This unironically might be one of my favourite logos of 80s Eurovision. I know, crazy, but points for the effort, man. The winner here was Johnny Logan, his second win for Ireland with his song Hold Me Now, the first time that the same person won Eurovision twice. And with that victory, it speeds us on over to Dublin, 1988. So we're back in Ireland for this edition, and here's the logo. Not really much to say. The motif in the middle sort of looks like a harp, similar to what you'd see on the Guinness logo, which of course is also made in Ireland. But I don't know, we're mainly working with text this time, and it doesn't really, I think compared to some of the creativity that the 80s had with the logos, this doesn't really meet the mark for me. It's just sort of saying like, oh yeah, it's Eurovision, great, woo, come watch, it's not very exciting, not very appealing. The winner of this contest though was Celine Dion. Yes, that's Celine Dion, who beat the UK by 1 point. That keeps happening, which means the following edition was held in Lausanne, 1989. I probably butchered that pronunciation, but it's in Switzerland, hooray! So let's have a look at the logo they offered. Ooh, I like that, I like that a lot. I probably shouldn't because, on the surface of it, you could argue this is very late 1980s. It almost looks like that logo, that line drawn there. I think is that meant to be the Matterhorn or some kind of mountain? It's not really quite clear. But that sort of line drawn reminds me of like a lot of, early VCR, VHS tape logos you'd see from companies back then. It feels like this could be, an intro logo to a VHS tape. I do like the black background though with the white text. That's really nice and clear to read. Obviously, it's taking place in Switzerland. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people I've read online don't like this one. They don't like the line work here. But I don't know. It's really doing something for me. I'm not going to lie. There's just something about it which is quite visually appealing. I like that a lot. Dated as it may be. But if you put this on a shirt, I'm pretty sure I'd wear that. Absolutely. The winner of this edition for the very first time was Yugoslavia with the song Rock Me by Riva. And Yugoslavia was quite a big territory back then, so let's see where they hosted it. Zagreb, 1990. Yes, they hosted it in Zagreb, which is a part of Croatia these days, but, this was the first time that Yugoslavia, as was then, hosted the Eurovision Song Contest. This was a big deal. So, what was the logo like? It's giving something. I'm not sure what it's meant to be. Is it meant to be a pair of lips? Is that what this is meant to be? I don't know, maybe it's just my eyes, but I'm not completely clear on what we were going for here. In terms of the colour scheme, predominantly grey and yellow, that doesn't really inspire that much either, at least to me. I think grey generally is a very dull colour, sucks the life out of so much, but especially when paired with yellow, which is such a vibrant thing, it doesn't quite work for me. You can see it says Eurovision Song Contest 90 in Zagreb, in Yugoslavia. And, great that they got to host, but this logo is not giving and not a good start to the 1990s, just in my view. The winner this year was Toto Cutugno with Insieme 1992 for Italy, a song all about Europe coming together. I'm sure that was bound to do well at Eurovision. Which means we now go to Rome, 1991. Yes, the beautiful city of Rome was host to the Eurovision Song Contest in 1991. So how did Italy do the logo? It is this, which I do kind of like, Again, the font used is very... I can't remember the phrasing, but it feels very 1930s. You'd see that font used in a lot of 1930s text or buildings. It says Concorso Eurovision della Canzone, Roma, 1991. The addition of the 36 there, because this was the 36th edition of the contest, it's nice, but it's not something that's often done. We've seen it a smattering of times, and I'm not quite sure why it's just there. I like all the stars because, to me at least, the stars represent, or they look similar to the flag of the European Union, and then they spiral out into green, white, and red stars, which of course are the colours of the Italian flag. A great example, similar to what Ireland did back in 81, of showing, the stars represent the unity of Europe and all these nations coming together, but also we've got the colours of the stars that are hosting the contest, which makes a lot of sense. And I mean, Italy's a beautiful country, Rome's a beautiful city, so why not show that off, Yeah, much better than 1990. There's something about it I'm not fully sold on, but I like this. I like the direction we're going in here. This edition of the contest was won by Carola with Fangard Avern Stormvind, which I've probably butchered, but that is a third victory for Sweden, so let's go on over to Malmö, 1992. Yes, back in Sweden, and this city, Malmö, is indeed where the 2024 contest is going to take place, and where I'll be in a matter of weeks, which is very exciting. But they also hosted back in 1992. Here's the logo. Again, like the 1989 one, this feels very intro to a old school VHS tape, don't you think? Everything from the coloured lines coming in from the side, the font used, the fact that there's like the gradient from like gold to white, that was very common in a lot of titles back in the day, especially on VHS. The 37 Festivalen feels very out of place there. It just looked like that got slapped on as a base font at the last second. I'm not quite sure why that's there. It just feels a bit tacked. I do like the Malmö, Sweden at the bottom there. That looks quite nice. Quite like a little bullet point between the two. Very good, very good. But yeah, it's not as good as 1991, better than 1990, but yeah, I just feel like we're entering our, we're starting to use computer graphics in some cases to design these, and some of them just come across as like VHS intros. There's no other way of saying it, unfortunately. The winner was Linda Martin with the song Why Me for Ireland, so another victory for them. Let's head on over to Millstreet, 1993. Yes, not Dublin. I know, the contest was held in Millstreet for Ireland in 1993. So another attempt of them hosting the contest. Let's see what they did with the logo. You know what? I do like this. There's something very sleek about this. I love the colour change from the green to the blue there, the star. I think, again, just an interpretation, I'd argue the green represents the Irish flag, or that part of it, and green is a colour very commonly associated with Ireland. I think the blue and the star, that again calls back to the European Union flag. In fact, a lot of these nations are part of that, are obviously part of the continent of Europe. The font choices are interesting. I love the font used at the bottom there for Song Contest Millstreet 1993. The font choice for Eurovision itself feels a bit too, I don't know, a bit too stock, a bit too basic. I wish it could have gone with the same font as the subheading there. That might have made it look a lot nicer. But no, the logo here, it's very simple design, but I kind of like it. There's something intriguing about it. One of the better ones of this decade thus far. The winner of this contest was Niamh Kavanagh with the song In Your Eyes, a second consecutive victory for Ireland, which means let's go on over to Dublin, 1994. Yes, we're back in Dublin for the 1994 contest. Here's their logo. Really cool. I like this. I love the sort of hand-drawn element here, like almost like a child could have drawn it, but I don't mean that in a negative way. I actually think it's a compliment. What I can see here is what look like castles in the background there, and then a series of stars against a blue backdrop. Once again, I'd argue this is calling back to Europe as a whole, or the European Union. I don't know, I really love that design. It's very mid-90s. A lot of that hand-drawn style was cropping up in various media, but it's nice to see here on a Eurovision logo. It could have very easily been bad, don't get me wrong. It could have very easily looked very messy, not very good, but I think this one stands out quite well. Font choices-wise, again, they just feel a little bit bland, a bit minimalist. Again, this was sort of happening in the mid-90s for things like this. I wish they'd have gone a bit bolder, something a bit more unique, a bit more standout. But really, the joy of this is that central art in the middle. That is really, really nice on the eye. The winners this year were Ireland. Yes, again, for a third year in a row. The winners were Paul Harrington and Charlie McGettigan with the song Rock and Roll Kids, making Ireland the first country ever in Eurovision history to win 3 consecutive times. And after that third victory, let's now stick around in Dublin, 1995. Almost a given that they'd stay in Dublin, I suppose. Here is the logo. And it seems Ireland really lent into the blue and yellow of like the European Union, the Europe continent and stuff like that. You can see they're the predominant colours here. Very interesting choice of fonts. The Eurovision one is again sort of this hand-drawn style. The O's almost look like hearts, but we're not quite in the heart era just yet. But then Song Contest and Dublin 1995 are these very like rigid, very formal fonts, which I do quite like. That's quite easy on the eye. I think in this case, it's good that the word Eurovision is in a different font, just because it gives it a bit of differentiation. In terms of the image, it's a curious one. Again, the E's there. It's Eurovision. But I can see some music notes. I'm not quite sure what's going on towards the left there. Arguably, I feel, keep the hand-drawn style fine, but I think the 94 one worked a lot better. It felt a bit more cohesive, a bit more easy on the eye. This one feels like we're reaching that point in the 90s where people just drew literally random stuff and slapped it out there. So, yeah, not one of my favorites. Interesting ideas, but not a winner for me. Speaking of winners, the victors were Secret Garden with the song Nocturne, representing Norway, their second victory. So that means we're going to journey on over to Oslo, 1996. The first time Oslo was host city to Eurovision, Norway are back in command of it here. Here's the logo, and doesn't this scream mid-90s? Everything about it, man. The disjointedness of the way the letters have been spelt, the disjointedness of this orange symbol here in the middle. I do like the font for Eurovision Song Contest, that's cool. The thing with jagged fonts, with like whatever they've used for Eurosong Oslo 96, it's not bad per se, and again, very in keeping with the era, but there's just something about it that doesn't quite click with me. Like, I don't really respond to it that well. It feels a bit disjointed, a bit messy. In terms of the orange symbol, personally, I'm not quite sure if that's meant to represent anything. I thought maybe, is it representing some sort of landmark? I thought it could be a weird, jagged sort of key, but it could just be an orange blob that they needed to throw on out there. In terms of Oslo 96, the letters sort of bleed out of the shape, which I'm already not a fan of. I think I said that on one of the other logos as well. Yeah, this one just doesn't quite do it for me. I appreciate going a bit different with designs of the past few years, but for me, I don't think this one worked out all too well. Sorry, Norway. The winner this year was Elmia Quinn with The Voice, representing Ireland, their 4th win of the 90s and their 7th overall, which at that time made them the most successful country in Eurovision with 7 victories under the belt. So let's return to, for the billionth time, Dublin, 1997. Yes, we're back in Dublin, would you believe it? And here is the logo. Now, we've gone for a very sleek look this time. We've ditched hand-drawn. We're still going with blue and yellow as the main colours here. A very faded blue this time. I wish it was a bit more vibrant, but the yellow star is there again, calling back to the European Union, the continent of Europe and stuff like that. I do like it, though. I like the sort of strings that come up through there. Maybe, is this in reference to like the harp again or something like that? The font itself for Eurovision Song Contest 97, very late 90s font, going with that sort of sci-fi, futuristic-y kind of look, although I won't lie, the eyes in Eurovision do look a little too close to the number 1. But yeah, this is, for Ireland, this is quite the departure. I think out of all their ones they did in the 90s, I think this is one of the better ones. There is a sleekness to it, it's very formal, it could go on a lot of things, but I don't think it's my favourite of theirs. I think, for me personally, it's got to be 1994 that took that one. But this is not a bad effort. And currently, it's the last time they've hosted the contest. Maybe they will again, but as one to bow out on, it's not too bad. The winners in Dublin were Katrina and the Waves, representing the UK with Love Shine a Light. So, yes, the UK with 5 victories now. So the following year, we are in Birmingham, 1998. Great to see another city hosting it that isn't London. Here is the logo, and funnily enough, I actually have this logo on a t-shirt, a vintage t-shirt of the time. It's all right. I mean, this logo, that main shape in the background, this is the logo that I believe the European Broadcasting Union and Eurovision itself were using as like a base standard logo. These sort of 3 tick shapes coming together with a yellow star in the background. It was sort of the thing. I'm not really a fan of it on the whole. Like, when it's just the shape, I'm not that enticed by it. But here, you know, the fonts here, Eurovision's all in lowercase. That's quite nice for a change. Song Contest all in block capitals. You've got Birmingham 98. Kind of like how Birmingham's split out with its letters there. That does look quite nice, but 98's joined together. Again, I have this on a t-shirt, so you could call me a little bit biased, but this is where we'll start to see this sort of base EBU Eurovision logo crop up, and I'm not against it doing so, but I do think it stifles some of the creative possibilities that can come out of making a logo for the contest. The winner this year was Dana International with Diva for Israel, so let's now hop on over to Jerusalem, 1999. We're back in Israel, and the logo is, oh god, why are we doing it, man? As you can see, the motif from last year is sort of back. It's a bit different this time. We've got 4 ticks, 2 in blue, 2 in yellow, which again is sort of referencing Europe, I guess. The bottom one is actually filling in the V for Eurovision, which I think looks horrific. I mean, the proportion is wildly too big, and it just looks like it's saying Eurovision. It doesn't look cohesive. It really doesn't. The font I like for Eurovision Song Contest. I mean, it's very simple, very standard, but I think it's very bold, stands out quite well. I don't know, though. This is what I mean about the EBU Eurovision like base logo cropping the creativity, because look at this. It doesn't really communicate much about the contest, and again, the way the V is all big and blue like that and way out of proportion. No, not good. Do not like. But this is the last one, of course, of the last millennium, the last century. The final winner of the 20th century was Charlotte Nilsson with Take Me to Your Heaven for Sweden. Another victory for them, their 4th, which means in the year 2000, we're going to Stockholm, 2000. 2000 was a big year of change for Eurovision, one of the first times they hosted it in like a stadium or an arena, really taking the template of the contest that we know today. And to enter the new millennium, what logo did the Swedes give us? Oh, lips. Those are lips. You know how I mentioned the 1990 logo could have debatably been lips? Here are the lips. That's undeniable. It's a shame they're just here in black. I know there are other variations of this that exist, like some in white, some with some colour in. But as a base logo, you know, having lips, I get it's a song contest. You know, the sound comes from our mouths and where our lips are. I get it. But I don't know, it just feels like a very bizarre logo. I'm not quite sure if I like it. It's just it feels very jarring. It just doesn't feel like it fits in all too well. The font as well reeks of that early 2000s. Again, we're being so futuristic. Look how blocky this is. Look how futuristic this is. I mean, as a time capsule for the year, it has its charm, but really, can we not have lips in the logo? It might even be something else, but come on, this looks like a pair of lips, and I think we can leave lips out of the logos in the future. Please make me stop saying lips. The winner was the Olsen brothers with Fly on the Wings of Love for Denmark. So let's now go to Copenhagen, 2001. We're back in Denmark. It's a new year. Here's the logo. Why? Why is this the logo? I know I've said before simplicity can be key, but this is taking the mick. This is literally a bunch of circles squiggled together with Eurovision Song Contest 2001 plastered on the bottom. This genuinely feels to me like one of the lowest effort logos we've had in years. What are the circles meant to represent? They could represent a number of things, but damn if I should know, because it's black circles. Someone scribbled this probably on a notepad and they went, yeah, that's great. And don't get me wrong, the 2000s were another time for people going extremely minimalist in some cases and then really bombastic in the others. But to go from the bombastic lips to this isn't it is a logo, but it's just, you wouldn't recognize it from this. At least the diehards would, but no, Denmark, no. Don't like this. No, very bad. Let's hope next year is better. The winner in 2001, by the way, was a new first-timer. It was Tanel Pador, Dave Benton, and 2XL representing Estonia, their first victory. They were able to host, even though they're a smaller nation. So, let's see what happened. Tallinn, 2002. Oh, thank God this is much better. Thank you, Estonia. We're keeping with a simple design, but thankfully those awful squiggles have gone. And now we've got these sort of like rock shapes or these dots. I like how they're all in a variety of colours. It's funny just how splashes of colour can bring so much more life to a logo, isn't it? I really like that. I like how they're all in different shapes and proportions. There's not really asymmetry to them, but I think that works in this case. You can see it says Eurovision Song Contest Estonia 2002. Very simple logo. Is that even... I mean, that might be a form of Jill Sands looking at it, but it's a very simple font. But again, it communicates exactly what it needs to. It works brilliantly paired with these colourful dots. and it's clear to read, nice in blue. So this is my favorite logo of the 2000s so far. It's much better than what we've had. It shows that you can be simple and pull off a brilliant logo with some colour, some vibrancy, some personality. And as first-time hosts, well done, Estonia. Smashed it. The winners were another first-time winner. It was Mari N with I Wanna representing Latvia. So how did they do? Let's have a look. Riga, 2003. So Latvia first-time hosts, let's see. Oh, I like it. I like it a lot. Oh my goodness, where to start with this beauty? So finally, we're getting a bit more expansive with our designs. We've got all these spiraling circles, which in a way actually mirror what the stage of that particular contest sort of looked like if you see clips from it. You can see it says Eurovision Song Contest, Latvia 2003. And I'd never know what font that is, but you've seen that font before. You've seen it everywhere. Very late 90s, very early 2000s. And I know I've criticized other logos for doing that, but come on, look at this. This looks beautiful. That is stunning. I love the curves. I love the dot at the top. This is just a very cohesive logo. The blue and the yellow, again, colors we've seen a lot now, but it does communicate that sense of Europe. Beautiful. Even better than Estonia. You've been pipped there. I really do like this logo. Get this on a t-shirt, official Eurovision shop. Please, I beg you. The winners were another first-timer, Sertab Erenna with Every Way That I Can, representing Turkey. So the next edition of the contest was Istanbul, 2004. Yes, we are in Istanbul, and here's what they came up with. Now, there's a few things to consider. I do apologize for the quality of this. There don't seem to be many high-quality images of this. We can see, though, the font is sort of written in that handwritten style, which I think is a bit boring and a bit dated now. The image is like this sort of multicolored spiral shape, which looks like an old-school TV logo. It's not very... I like the colors, but it's not very expansive. It doesn't tell you much about it. Although many don't consider this the main logo because this was the year that this was introduced and this became the de facto Eurovision logo you'd see a lot for years to come, for over a decade in fact, with the country who's hosting in the heart shape and all that. That's what started to get introduced here. But you'd still have individual logos that go alongside this, and we'll see that. But considering this was the first one, I kind of understand why this one doesn't get talked about or forgotten. I'm just sorry it's in 144p quality. The winners, another first-timer, would you believe? It was Ruslana with Wild Dances representing Ukraine. So let's go on over to Kyiv, 2005. Yes, we're in Ukraine, and here's what they came up with. So you can see this is where we get, the Eurovision Song Contest base logo with the nation and then a symbol or an emblem to go along with it. This one's interesting. The whole green triangle splattering off a red circle in the middle. I'm not quite sure what the decision behind this was, because to me this doesn't scream like Ukraine or Ukrainian culture, but that might just be me not knowing about the culture. The pattern itself feels very disjointed. You can't really tell where it begins and ends in that sense, and it's just, I don't know, it's not a logo I've drawn to. It's not one I really like. So, points for trying, but this isn't really a good one. The winner, another first-timer, yes, after decades of competing, was Greece, with Helena Paparizou with My Number One. So let's kick on over now to Athens, 2006. So we are in Greece for the very first time, and what a contest this was. But here is the logo, and you can see at the bottom that base font, that Eurovision Song Contest, Athens 2006. That is going to be a constant now. That is something that you'll see in nearly every contest since, like the subheading. That font actually looks like quite a Euro-style font, doesn't it, down there at the bottom? But let's have a look at the logo itself. So the icon, we've gone for a sort of sound wave design, as you can see. Several different colours, yellow, pink, green, blue, grey, all going in a straight line before bursting into like a little explosion of sound, I guess is what you can call it. I do like it. I like the mishmash of colours. Again, I think colours really help the variety in these logos here. I just wish it's like, is the explosion of sound meant to represent the contest or something like that? I don't know. Maybe a bit more of a cohesive explosion might have been good, but I guess that goes against what an explosion is. But nevertheless, I do like the colours. It's a bit of a step up from last year's logo. And the winner of this contest was quite famously Lordi with Hard Rock Hallelujah, netting Finland their first ever victory in the contest. So that means we're off to Helsinki, 2007. In Finland for the first time ever. A lot of first-time winners during the 2000s. Here is the logo they presented, and it's quite a mishmash of different things. You can see the stretch there, obviously bearing the contest name. The EBU, obviously the people who produce this, and the Finnish broadcaster YLE. Now, there are some patterns in the background you can see there. They're sort of almost like of a floral design, mixed with blues, greens, yellows, pinks. Again, nice blend of colour, just like in the logo last year. But why on earth is this banner covering up all of that? To have most of your image taken up by essentially a black banner with white text and stuff, whilst it's easy to read, it's really taking away from the design of these shapes behind them. And whilst they are nice to see, I really wish they had been the main focus. I really think the way it's been done squanders it, which is such a shame, because I think if the main picture had been devoted to these flower-like shapes, that could have been a really beautiful piece of art, maybe one of the best the contest had ever seen. But as it stands, the way they've laid this out, just not that good. This edition of the contest was won by Serbia, another first-time winner, would you believe? Which means the next edition of the contest is Belgrade 2008. We're in Serbia now, 2008, and here is the logo that was presented, and I really like this, folks, I'm not going to lie. Again, we're seemingly going with the sort of music note motif, but look at this. The red and the blue is almost like a red-blue purpley hue, like when the colours mix, beautifully contrasting each other there. I love the splatters that emerge from it, almost like the music is coming together, different styles, and bursting outwards. There's just so much energy in there. This is just a really great example of the music motif used like this. Again, the colours blend really well. I like the shapes. It's a really strong icon or symbol in itself. Like, you'd walk past this and you'd know it was relating to a music-related event, and particularly Eurovision. Yeah, in terms of the 2000s, this is one of the strong ones. I still think 2002, 2003, they rank higher for me, but this is a strong one. So well done. The winners of this contest were Russia, their first ever victory in the contest as well. That is the 8th new winner on the trot, which, good variety in Eurovision. So our next contest will be in Moscow, 2009. The first time Russia hosted the event, and here is the logo. And I must say, this is rather elegant. It sort of builds upon what Serbia did the year before. It sort of looks music notey. I mean, there are music notes at the bottom there, quite clearly you can see. But the whole thing sort of has a music note vibe to it, I think. And again, the colours have just been enhanced further. The blends, the sheer blend of like the red, blue, pinks and purples, the way they all seamlessly blend into each other rather than just be hard cuts from one another. It's a really beautiful symbol. And I guess you could interpret it to mean many different things, as again, I mainly relate it to music, but I love the different strands coming off it. It's varied and it doesn't look too messy. Honestly, thinking about it, this is up there with 2002 and 2003 in terms of symbols. They did a really phenomenal job with this one, design-wise. It's just really elegant, a great way to close out the 2000s logo-wise. The winners here were Norway, with Alexander Rybak's song Fairy Tale, very popular at the time, still very popular now, meaning Norway had notched its 3rd victory, which takes us to Oslo, 2010. Norway hosted Eurovision once again, and this is the kind of motif they went with. Now, it's not bad per se, but the concept seems to be bubbles, and you've got the Eurovision logo front and centre, you can see the EBU logo there at the side, and the broadcaster logo, NRK, who've hosted Eurovision for Norway before. It's nice, and there's a few variations of this, like this one's pink and black. There's another one where they basically swap around the colours predominance, and whilst either are okay, pink and black just seem like very odd colours to mix together for something like this. I mean, you went from the year before in Moscow where, again, this logo, again, just to harp on it, was a beautiful mix of all the colours and ideas, and whilst bubbles can work, I think, I mean, it does remind me of Estonia's effort in 2002 in a more 3D form, but I don't know, it just feels very... It feels very basic. It feels very, we've slapped this together, and it's very 2010. It's very of its time. Not one of my favourites. Not the best way to start off the new decade, but hey-ho, let's see what is next to come. For in fact, the winners in 2010 were Germany. Lena's song Satellite gave them their 2nd victory. So now we will go to Dusseldorf 2011. Now, a fun fact, this is the very first Eurovision Song Contest that I ever watched live at the time on the telly. I'd seen clips of other contests time gone by, but this was the first one I remember watching in full, and I loved it, and I think it's what gave me the bug for it now, so it's a very special contest for me. Here is the logo they used, and they're mainly embracing a heart shape. As we've said, for nearly a decade now, you can look at the Eurovision logo there. They've embraced that heart symbol with the host nation in the V of Eurovision. So to have the heart as the main logo isn't a bad idea. It does correspond well with the main brand, but it's not exactly the most original choice. We get here a heart that's made up of 3 different colours. You can see the strands of black, yellow and red, which obviously represent the German flag. And, I get it. It's a heart. We're all about love, peace, unity, etc., especially for Eurovision, but the sheen of this, like the light is just a bit too abrasive for me. It's not really, again, it feels very uninspired, not necessarily very exciting. So whilst the contest itself is a special one for me, it's not one that logo-wise I hold in the highest esteem. The winners this year were Ella Nicky with their song Running Scared, representing Azerbaijan, their first victory in the contest. So we will now speed on over to Baku 2012. Azerbaijan's first time hosting the contest. You can see on this logo here that their slogan is Light Your Fire. Now, Eurovision had a slogan from around the new millennium or a few years into it. Sometimes they were featured in the logos like this, sometimes they weren't. That's why I haven't been touching on them as constantly, but this one does. Light Your Fire is a great slogan. It just makes me think of Relight My Fire, of course. But the logo here is quite nice. You know, you can see indeed, you do you do have a fire. That is a fire flaring out there. I think that does look quite nice. It's a very striking symbol, very powerful emblem. Really like that. I think you can lose the stars around it. I think that does make it a little bit too cluttered for its own good. So yeah, you can sack that off there. But yeah, for first time hosting, they didn't do a bad job with the logo. I like the colour hues here. And again, the symbol itself is a very recognisable, strong symbol. So I'll big that one up. Big fan. The winner this year was, of course, Loreen with her song Euphoria, representing Sweden, their 5th win in the contest. So we will go to Malmö 2013. Yes, we're back in Malmö for another edition of the contest. Here is the logo. Now, I adore this. This is one of my favourite Eurovision logos ever. I remember watching the contest and seeing this pop up on the screen, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. Not only does the body shape of a butterfly lend itself to a great deal many logos that are out there, I think for Eurovision, it's just perfect. And look at the colour blends here. They're not conventionally done. Some are hard cuts, some are gradients. You've got a whole range of colours mixed in there. It feels great. It's lovely to look at. The slogan above it, We Are One. I mean, what better service could you give to Eurovision than a slogan like that? We Are One. Brilliant phrase for use there. It's just a great symbol. And even if I see this logo now, I instantly get taken back to that contest in 2013 and how brilliant it was. So, excellent choice of symbol. One of the best symbols, logos, whatever you want to call it. One of the best Eurovision has had, period. I'm saying that now, full stop. The winner of this year was Emily DeForest and her song Only Teardrops, which was another win for Denmark. So let's now go to Copenhagen 2014. Back in Denmark, it's a new year, it's 2014, and bam, this is your logo. Really, really cool. They went with the whole like diamond or jewel motif, which looks phenomenal, by the way. Look at just go behind the text. Look at how this has been constructed. All the different layers and different color shades. The way the colors blend together, the way this has been designed is phenomenal. A great identifier for a Eurovision Song Contest. You can easily put the flags within these jewels as they did. It's easy to show up on promotional material. All in all, brilliant bit of logo design. You can see that the slogan this year is front and center, which is #join us. Yes, we're in the hashtag era, baby. Let's go. Oh, God. Yeah, hashtags were really booming at this time, so I guess it made sense that Eurovision would join in the hype, especially as the contest was getting increasingly popular with younger viewers and the advent of social media helped spread the contest awareness even further. I do think the Eurovision logo itself could have been out of the jewel on this one. I would be interested to see that and just have join us in the middle. But it's a strong slogan, very inviting, and again, just that logo, man, whether on its own or against the backdrop, really bit of beautiful design. Another one of my favorites from the 2010s. Just, this is a key example of you can do really simple, but make it really elegant and visually appealing for the eye. Phenomenal stuff. The winner this year was Conchita Wurst for Austria with their song Rise Like a Phoenix, a great tune. So, for the first time in many decades, we're going to Vienna 2015. We are in Austria for the 60th edition of the Eurovision Song Contest, and here is the logo. So we've got a circular symbol with a whole bunch of wavy dots gliding by it. The slogan is Building Bridges, which again, I think is a nice slogan for Eurovision. The whole idea is, you know, we're coming together, we're basking in each other's cultures, we're learning about each other, building those bridges. I think that's an apt slogan for sure. I like how the central globe sort of is like a magnifying glass, bringing us closer to those orbs that are there. And I really love the colour style. Again, it's mainly red and white, really, which again represents the Austrian flag, the host nation. I can see the smaller dots behind, which is really cool. Part of me wishes there was more to it, like there was more to these dots or the patterns that they form. But as it stands, this is very striking. Again, this feels like a very typical Eurovision logo of the 2010s. But yeah, not as strong as 2013 or 14, but there's a lot of merit there. The winner this time was Måns with a song called Heroes, representing Sweden, their 6th win, and they'd not long since won. So we're going to go to Stockholm 2016. We're back in Sweden, we're back in Stockholm, here's your logo. And it seems the idea of a central sphere or orb was the order of the day to go for Eurovision. So we've got this central orb, we can see lots of shimmering stars, I guess. Whether or not the stars, I don't know. That's just my interpretation. The slogan is "Come Together." Classic phrase. Again, works wonderfully for Eurovision. Everyone binding together. The background colours are nice, but in terms of the orb itself, I feel there's too much shine for its own good. A bit of shine's okay, but because everything's shining, you can barely see the colours beneath it. And I'm not really sure what it's trying to communicate. Are all the stars meant to represent the different nations that are taking part, everyone coming together for the contest? It's a bit unclear. Had they got some of the colours of the different flags of nations in this sphere, maybe it would have looked too cluttered, but I think that could have been a nice idea. But as it stands, for me, this one's just it's a bit too much for its own good, far too cluttered. Nice idea, but not the best execution. The winner here was Jamala with their song 1944, representing Ukraine, their second victory. So let's go to Kyiv, 2017. Back in the capital for another Eurovision in Ukraine. Here's the logo. You can see that the phrase is "Celebrate Diversity," which we absolutely should. That's been one of the cornerstones of Eurovision since the very beginning, so why shouldn't we celebrate it? The logo here, again, we're using spheres, but there's a bit more variety here. Each of the spheres, as you can see, has a different pattern to it. Some of it is stripes, spots, circles, dots, whatever you want to call it. There's at least something visually different to look at. I'm not sure whether this is harking to Ukrainian culture, if this is meant to represent something. Sometimes the logos do this, as we've discussed. If they are, that's great. I think that's a wonderful way of showing off the host nation's culture. It does almost look like, with the two dots at the top, like a bracelet or a necklace sort of thing, which again is a really cool idea. They should have sold that. Maybe they did, but I hope they would have done. Yeah, celebrate diversity. Of course, there's diversity in the different spheres. They're all different patterns and stuff like that. So it's nice to see that the logo reflects the slogan, properly as well. I wish there was a bit more colour variety, a bit more difference in the colour scheme. The red and black motif is nice, but, something a bit more diverse, ironically, in the colour scheme would have been really good. The winner this year was Salvador Sobral, giving Portugal its first ever win in decades of taking part in the contest. A very proud moment for them. So, let's go on over to Lisbon, 2018. So Portugal hosts the Eurovision Song Contest for the first time ever. Very proud moment, as I said. Here's their logo, all aboard, which just makes me, of course, think of trains and hopping on a train. But why not? Let's all get aboard the Eurovision Song Contest train. I'm here for it, and so should you be. So the little spirally thing here is an interesting one. It's a bit different from the main sphere motifs we've had over the last few years. The yellow images behind, yeah, that kind of works. Blue and yellow again, sort of like the Irish ones of the 90s, harking to the European Union or the European continent. But I don't know, I wanted this to be more front and centre than it is. I feel like the emphasis on the logo this year was in the slogan. And it's a good slogan, don't get me wrong, but, give your logo a bit more prominence. Also, what is this arguably meant to be? It doesn't really relate to trains or travel, at least not that I can see. It's just a bunch of, unless it's a music note curving round, I'm not too sure. I'm not really sure what this is meant to be, and I think if you're thinking that with your logo, then it's maybe not the best designed. The winner this year was Netta with her song Toy representing Israel. So, let's go to, for the first time, Tel Aviv, 2019. Israel once again hosting the contest, and this is the logo they came up with. So we're using a star as a motif there. Really interesting. We've got two gold pieces and then a sort of illuminated wireframe one, which is meant to make a star. You could call this to numerous things, gold similar to yellow and the blues here. Again, is it a call to the European Union or Europe itself? It just reminds me of the broken up star Adric used in Earthshock. That's a Doctor Who reference, by the way, so if you don't get that, I'm so sorry. But yeah, it's an interesting image, very interesting. And Dare to Dream is the slogan, which, for the record, is not a very good slogan, at least I don't think it is. It does meet the ethos of what Eurovision is about, but I just don't, out of all the slogans we've had, I think it's one of the weakest, for sure. But yeah, this, as they say, this is fine. It's okay, it's not set my world on fire, and it's not awful, but it's just kind of there. The winner of this contest was Duncan Lawrence with his song Arcade, giving the Netherlands their 5th win. So, that means we're off to Rotterdam, 2020. Well, sort of. Of course, 2020 is the year the pandemic hit. The Eurovision Song Contest was cancelled that year. They did still debut the logo for it, though. I'm taking it this was before it was cancelled. The phrase is open up, which became deeply ironic, given the situation. What I'm gathering is this circle has the colours of all the nations taking part, at least I'm assuming so. which is a really cool idea. One of the first times we've seen this done for decades. You know, we saw this a bit in the 60s and the 70s, but for a logo to incorporate all the colours, or I'm guessing that's the idea, of all the nations who are competing is really nice. And the way it's been done in this style is quite cool, quite unique. Shame it was never used, but we did open up the next year. Rotterdam, 2021. With provisions in place, the contest did go ahead in 2021. They retained the same city, they retained the same slogan, and this is the logo, which is slightly different from before. It's going for pretty much the same motif of all the nations' flags being incorporated somehow into this, but it's not as, uniformed as 2020. If you look at 2020, it's almost like a perfect circle, nothing strays too far out. This one, there's things going all over the place, and it does look cool, but I think I do prefer the uniformity of the 2020 logo, if I'm being completely honest. But nice that they got to use some kind of variant of it eventually. The winner of this contest was Måneskin for Italy, so let's go on over to Turin, 2022. Yes, this was a fabulous contest, wasn't it? And here is the logo. Both familiar and different for Eurovision at the time. Again, we've got a sphere as the central motif here, but I also love the colour scheme, a lot of red and green, which obviously links to the Italian flag, but it's colours that we've seldom seen used much within the last 10, 15 years, and it's just really nice to see. I love the slogan as well, the sound of beauty, relating to everyone's different cultures, different music coming in, being beautiful in its own way. I think the font's really nice. It's very classy without feeling too dated. I love the motif around the central circle as well, almost like little sound waves emanating from this hub that is Eurovision. It's a really solid logo, one that I'm a big fan of, so props to the Italians for designing that. The winner this year was Ukraine, with the Kalush Orchestra and their song Stefania, which means we're going to go on over to Liverpool, 2023. Yes, of course, as I'm sure you're all aware, Ukraine was not able to host the contest in 2023 due to the war waged on them by Russia. So, as second place holders, for the 16th time, by the way, the United Kingdom offered to host, and the city chosen was Liverpool, which is very close to my heart. That's where I lived for several years. I was able to go down and enjoy a day during the week. I didn't get to go in the arena, but the Eurovision Festival was great, and it was wonderful to see for the city. Here was the logo, and you're going to call me biased, but come on. This has got to be one of the most defining, most iconic, most powerful logos Eurovision has done within this century. Where to start? Bright yellow background, instantly captivating for your eyes. They did that blue version you see behind me on the poster, but the yellow one, instantly eye-catching. Multicolored hearts, great idea. Incorporating colours of the Ukraine, mainly blue and yellow. Other colours in there as well that contrast well, such as pink and like a dark blue. And the slogan, United by Music. Very powerful slogan, particularly as the war in Ukraine was continuing on. The fact that we're saying we're all united by music as opposed to the things that divide us. That was a very powerful statement, very apt for this contest, and it works wonderfully. Just looking at this, it brings back a whole host of memories, even though it was only a year ago. But even as logos go, if I had not attended, this is a super strong logo, and one that I think will go on in Eurovision history to be one of the most defining in the entire contest. This year was won by Loreen, yes, the second time, the first woman to do so. She won with her song Tattoo, which means in 2024, we're going to be going to Malmö, 2024. Yep, Malmö's hosting once again, and the logo this time is this. And I'm going to be honest, guys, colour me disappointed. I was so excited in the build-up to what the logo was going to be, how the contest was going to look. First things first, you may notice the slogan is the same, United by Music. Now, the European Broadcasting Union liked it so much that they're now making it the de facto slogan for all contests going forward, which I get and I don't get. It's a strong statement, I get it. It goes to the core of what the contest should be about. But particularly this year, in an already divisive year on the world stage, it feels a little bit out of touch. I do think having new slogans every year is a good thing, or even revisiting old slogans every now and then is fine, but I think having one de facto slogan, especially one like this, has its pitfalls. But nevertheless, the actual logo itself have variations on this top part, like it's almost like a soundbar or an equalizer, bleeding in different colours there, yellow, green, blue, dark blue, purple. It's an interesting idea, and I'm sure some people will love it, but I've got to say, it's really not for me. Looking at like the posters and the t-shirts, it's not really giving the excitement that I think Eurovision should. Like the heart logo worked immeasurably well, but this one, I don't know, I just think it falls short of the mark. It's almost like this minimalist approach, which, yes, the Swedish are known for and they're very good at. But for me, this logo just doesn't quite do it. But would you believe it? We are up to date. We finally reached the end of our logo journey, and what a journey it's been. You'll have seen as I've gone through this, we've gone from just plain text to incorporating basic images, to incorporating custom fonts and custom images, symbols, emblems, slogans, the full shebang. We've literally seen it all across the near past 70 years. And what a varied history Eurovision has had as well. I mean, even just looking at these logos give you an insight into the time and what was going on. And I really hope you've enjoyed this journey with me. I mean, first of all, if you've made it to the end, congratulations. You've got the endurance of a mad person. But it's been a joy to do this. I love Eurovision, and I know it's not something that everyone enjoys, but getting a chance to make a video like this is really special to me, particularly as I'm going to the contest in some form this year. I'll be in that arena watching. Is mental. But if you enjoyed this video, do leave a like on it. It really does help us out. And subscribe if you're brand new as well. We'd love to have you aboard here with us. Let me know your thoughts on these in the comments down below. What was your favourite logo that we looked at in this video? Let me know all of that in the comments below. In the meantime, I've been Adam Martin from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, Globe of Reviews, Derek Chambers, Sean Knock, Dord Khan, Liam Domain, Trev Hughes, AJ Mac 200017, Deck KP20, Simon Harrison, Evan Hart 41, Jen, Ted Elliott, Tim Ripley, Mr. Eurovision 1986, and Robert Oliphant, our AMTV staff members.